Good evening. I'm Sean Greer. This is case study number 3, student ID 4491490, class TLMT 313, Supply Chain Management, AMU, with Professor Dr. William Hedgepeth, and the date is August 24th, 2019. This case study is done on Tahindo's Tea Company. I'm going to cover the Tahindo's supply chain complexity diagram. So from the Tahindo Tea Company, it gathers its tea leaf from its tea leaf suppliers located in West Java, which is outsourced. It also outsources other suppliers, such as for water, sugar, and fruit extracts. Then it sends those to the manufacturing plants located in Sumatera, Bali, and Java. Regional hubs located in Sumatera, Bali, and Java, Sulawesi, and Kalimantan, which then they send those from the regional hubs out to the warehouses, from the warehouses to the sales representative, and then from the sales representative, it can either go to the local distributors, which is outsourced. It can also, from the sales representative, they can also outsource to wholesalers, they can outsource to retailers, and they can also outsource to consumers. They don't necessarily have to go through a local distributor. They can go to the local distributor, wholesalers, retailers, or consumers, depending on the situation. So some of the major facts for the Tahindo Tea Company, they have been established for many years as a tea manufacturer and distributor. They were established in Indonesia back in the 1940s. I'm not sure the exact date. They have 3 different types of teas that they actually distribute. They not only is Tahindo Tea Company a manufacturer, but they also a distributor company. They have 3 types of teas that they distribute. They have the Go tea, which Go tea is a jasmine type of tea. They also have the Fite. I'm not sure pronunciation, so bear with me. But Fite is a fruity type of tea. It's got the fruit extracts from different types of fruits. And then they have the Site, which is mostly crushed, dried tea that is that's only distributed in tea bags. But for this discussion purposes only, for this case study, we'll only be discussing the Gote and the Fite, which is the jasmine and the fruity extracts type of tea. Fite is only offered in guava, strawberry, lemon, apple, and black currant. Moving on, some of the major problems that Tahindo Company is having is that price increases from the factory is directly affecting the increase in orders by the consumer. Although Tahindo is stating that it's the consumers and the demand of products is causing the price increase, in all actuality, it's actually because the factory is raising the prices 2 weeks in advance and letting the consumers and the distributors and the wholesalers and retailers know that that price increase is coming 2 weeks in advance. Those ailments are fluctuating the increase of demand on those products to make sure they don't run out of stock. But then once that happens, the wholesalers and retailers then have an overstock of this product, and Tahindo has to then decrease the price of this to get that inventory sold out. But at the same time, like I said, they don't want to run out of stock, but now we're having an overstock of these items of the tea. So the increased orders by the consumers are a direct reflection of the factory increase and not that of increased demand from the consumer. The increase in demand during promotional periods could result in shortages if any aspect of the supply chain is not ready to respond to the price increase of the influx of products during promotional periods. These are the major problems that are affecting the company at this time. Moving forward, we were talking earlier. I was discussing the Gote and the Fete teas. Well, we're gonna talk about each one and figure out and determine what is the better course of action to move forward for this company. So the Gote, which is the jasmine tea, once again, some of the pros is that it's very few product variants, as opposed to the Fete. They have many product variants. Being that the fruit teas, they have many different fruit types. They're delivering in bottles and cans. Gote is mostly in bottles, but because of product variant that Fete is extracting, these fruit extracts, they are coming up short on product deliverability and productivity to their suppliers. And then supply and demand, they're not getting the product out in a timely manner, and storefronts shelves are not getting stocked as needed. So another thing with Gote is easy available large quantities of stock, whereas Fete stocking is scarce due to the variations in fruit flavors. Volume stock is low. Gote supply and demand of product is easily forecasted, whereas for Fete, retailers and sales representatives are needed to promote the variety of tea flavors. Temporary increase in demand can occur. The temporary increase in demand is not a certain factor, so this can cause delays in shipments, as well as out of stock storefront shelves. So we have to fix, this company has to fix the problem with the fruity tea and what they're selling, because this is causing a problem with trying to get it out, trying to distribute that product out and keep it in stock at the wholesale level and the retail level for the consumer. For the Gote, mostly bottles are sold, which I described earlier. Some Tetra packs are sold, but however, the reverse logistics is needed for bottle recycling. So mostly the bottles are sold for the jasmine tea. However, those bottles are being recycled and going back to the factory to be reused, recycled for more products, which is saving the company money, saving the organization money. Whereas the Fete is using mostly one-way products, which they described as OWP, abbreviated as OWP, one-way products, which is they're producing bottles, pushing the product out, but the product that they're pushing out, those bottles aren't being recycled. So in the long run, they're spending more money, more resources to produce these bottles and push the product out for the fruity tea label, as opposed to returning these bottles back to the factory where they can be recycled and be reused, which would save revenue in the long run for the company. So some of the possible solutions and suggestions that I came up with was the tea company could possibly cut back on the numerous variations in their Fete tea blends, which is the fruity tea blends and flavors, to promote more efficient and production and distribution of their product without hindering loss or need for a variation that cannot meet the demands of the consumer or retailer. Pricing stability is a must of their tea products, drafted through contracts between retailer and the company. Also, recycling of bottles would save the company money and assets for future products. Like I was stating earlier, recycling the bottles would save the company a lot of revenue, a lot of money in the long run. This is what they need to do. Tahindo Tea Company needs to, for both tea products, needs to have their bottles recycled, so it saves them money and expenses, and trying to resource out to, that's glass that they're spending more money on, whereas they can just recycle that glass and produce those same bottles without having to generate more of that outsourcing out to get that glass to produce those bottles for the tea company. Some of the causes of temporary demand increase. Price increase of tea products to retailers, wholesalers, and distributors was announced 2 weeks prior to actual increase date. So this has affected the company big time because they are talking about increasing prices on their tea products, mainly due to the fact that the Fite, the fruity tea products are unstable, and the demand for those, there's so many variety of flavors that I believe that they should concentrate more on just a certain amount of flavors instead of all those flavors, because they can't keep up with the demand of the product as far as production is concerned. Wholesalers and retailers could carry out forward buying, which in turn increase the demand of the variant tea products. Religious celebrations and holidays, including New Year's, increase demand on tea products. See, they're also taking into consideration the religious holidays, celebrations and holidays, like including New Year's, and their wholesalers and retailers are increasing demand on those products during those times. But once those and they're buying those products in larger quantities. But when those times are over, guess what? That drops, and now they might have an overstock, or the factory is not producing any. They're producing less because of the fact of those celebrations are over and those holidays are over. So we got to look into that as well. One last thing is promotional events would also increase demand on tea products during those periods of time. So any type of promotional events, such as, for example, let's say, hey, I have the strawberry tea here. The fruity drink is strawberry tea. You buy two, you get the third one for free, or you buy one, you get the second one half off. Those are the type of promotional events that we're talking about here. If the tea company was to do this, they might be able to sell more, but are we actually saving money or actually losing money in the long run? That's what we got to look at. Then we move on to information distortion in the supply chain. Information distortion basically is the concept where the demand variability increases as supply chains move forward to increase profitability. So basically this concept has been coined the bullwhip effect. The bullwhip effect will differ for the two types of teas. So we talked about the gote, which is the jasmine tea, and the efte, which is the fruity tea, but the effects are still the same on both tea products. The sporadic price fluctuations, the erroneous forecasting which led to product shortages, plus religious, holiday, and promotional events that ultimately caused temporary increase in demand for short periods of time. Vertical integration and outsourcing. So moving on, here's some of the advantages of vertical integration and outsourcing. We'll talk about advantages and disadvantages. Some of the advantages are supply, demand, and absorption of tea and other ingredients from the suppliers to the manufacturers, to the regional hubs, to the warehouses, to the salesmen, to the distributors, or the wholesalers, or the retailers, or even the consumers. Outsourcing to distributors that utilize a recycling program on the RGB, once again, the return glass bottles, would fundamentally increase revenue as well as productivity within the organization. We talked about that earlier. Recycling of the bottles will produce better revenue for the company in the long run. They're not outsourcing to spend, utilizing expenditures and outsourcing and using expenses to produce those bottles. They already have those bottles. All they need to do now is recycle those bottles and put the product back in those bottles and distribute them back out to the factories for distribution down to ultimately the consumer in the long run. Vertical integration and outsourcing continued. Now we're going to go into the disadvantages, okay? Unfortunately, strong vertical integration can lead to inefficiencies. Unfortunately, this is true. All parties within the supply chain must feel as though they are growing with the business organization. At any point, if they are not feeling this way, the stable work environment may crumble apart as they feel as though they don't have that job security anymore. If these elements at any time are in question, then this will cause the ripple effect within the supply chain, and in turn will disrupt the supply chain. making it an uncompetitive entity in the long run. So we have to look at that. We have to make sure that we are not causing that ripple effect in the supply chain. This is where good supply chain management comes into a play. We got to have good supply chain managers to make sure that this is not happening. Once we see that ripple effect, it's all downhill, and that company or organization has to struggle to survive at that point to build themselves back up on a plateau that they need to be at to be sustainable and efficient and sufficient. They also want to have productivity and capabilities of meeting the supply and demand. At this time, this concludes my summaries of the slideshow. We went through everything. At this time, I leave the floor open for any questions or concerns. I hope you enjoyed my presentation. And unfortunately, as you can see, Friday night I did break my hand on a fall and I dislocated my pinky finger. It was a hard time. Over the weekend I dedicated this to doing the slideshow. It was a hard time. I was in pain. I have, fortunately, I did have some pain medication that I picked up today that I was able to try to sit here and type to try to get this done. But at the same time, I enjoyed this class. It was a great class. I had a great 8 weeks of class. Dr. Hedgepeth, I enjoyed your counsel, and I look forward to my next class that's coming up next. But it's been a pleasure being in this logistics class. I did learn a lot. I'm going to take what I've learned, absorb it, retain it, and utilize it for future management for my career in the field of management. And hopefully one day I will, in the short term, I will open my business, and I'll be able to utilize the logistics portions to ensure that I can outsource properly to vendors and different entities that to receive the resources and products and services that I will need for my business. It's been a pleasure, and thank you.